Hey, I was on YouTube a couple days ago, came across this really cool video I want to show you guys. It's the famous Bigfoot researcher Cliff Barackman talking about a recent sighting in Alaska of some very large footprints in wet sand. And they were found by a metal detectorist. And I'm not surprised to hear this. You know, in the 35 years I've been metal detecting, I've covered the whole state from the very top all the way to the bottom and even into Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and even New Mexico. Done a lot of detecting over my years, and I've never really been a city or park detectorist. I've always been an outdoor adventurer, trying to find something way off the beaten path. I feel like oftentimes I'm in areas where no other person has been in recent times. I feel like maybe I'm in areas where there hasn't been anybody in decades or maybe even over a century. And these are very remote areas. Well, because of that, I've experienced some crazy stuff over the years. I saw this video and it just reminded me of a couple incidents I want to talk to you guys about. I'm also going to ask you to go into the comments and let me know what have you guys seen, because I know for sure that a bunch of you who've been doing this for a long time like me have seen some crazy stuff too. If it wasn't related to bears or mountain lions or something like that, it might have been, you saw a UFO sighting, or you saw something like along the lines of what I saw and what this story here shows. So I'd like to hear your stories too. Go down in the comments and let me know, and let's talk down there a little bit. Maybe we could do another video in the future with a couple of you guys talking about some of your stories. But let's get started by watching this clip real quick, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you a couple incidents that happened to me. All right, here we go.
All right, I'm checking out this video sent in by a witness from Fairbanks, Alaska, which is smack dab in the Alaska Triangle. This guy was out metal detecting on the beach, and he found a very strange set of footprints where he feels there should not have been a strange set of footprints. They're pretty widely spaced. They're in a straight line that tends to jibe with what we think about the way SASQUATCHs walk.
It was filmed by metal detectorist Keith Lindsay.
Well, it was the spring of 2012, late April, and I heard on the TV that the river was at an all-time low. So, being my hobby's metal detecting, I thought I'd come down to the river and see what I could find. I came down, I started metal detecting, and then when I turned, I looked up this way and I saw these big footprints. So I thought, that's strange, so I walked over to investigate them. I put my coil, which is an 11-inch coil, up to them, and they were probably 5 or 6 more inches longer, so I thought, wow, that is really weird. And it was still cold, so I thought, well, who's gonna be out here walking around in their bare feet, and who's got feet that big?
Judging by the size of his detector, these footprints are between 16 and 18 inches long.
And then I noticed the stride. The stride was a lot farther than what a normal human being could walk, so I tried to take the stride myself, and I was still coming up a foot or two short. I mean, I would have had to have jumped to almost make that distance. So that's why I started videotaping, was because I thought nobody's gonna believe this.
Giant footprints in a straight line and with a stride that's over 6 feet. Classic Bigfoot, now caught on video.
They are typically flat-footed. They won't have an arch. And one print to another print, the distance will be large, but also they will be in a line. Whereas a human, it has this left and right pattern as it's in a gait cycle, whereas the Bigfoots have a straight line appearance.
I never really thought about Bigfoot until I found these footprints. I'm just to the point where, yeah, I believe it could be.
In Fairbanks, Bigfoot does seem to have left his mark. Dr. Robert Alley is studying Keith's video of the footprints.
Shows very clearly a series of footprints leading off without any human footprints in close proximity, with scale an 11-inch metal detector, suggesting tracks of 16, 17, or 18 inches in length, and toes that are visible, very clearly demarcated, along with a stride that really stretched out well beyond 6 feet. What is it? Well, really, it's not a bear, it's bipedal, and it doesn't fit into a human range of variability. Really, whether you like it or not, all you have is a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot.
Yeah, pretty crazy there. I'm glad that that guy had the presence of mind to turn his video camera on and catch those footprints so that we could see him and you know, measure him and stuff like that. I want to tell you guys about a couple incidents that happened to me. So these two incidents happened really close together, I would say less than a quarter mile apart, and they were about a year apart. And they happened in an area where there's been a bunch of Bigfoot sightings over the last 15 or 20 years. I did not know this until my incidents happened and kind of did some research on it. But I got to tell you, so the first one was me, my son-in-law Andrew, and Ron from California Relic Adventures, my old buddy Ron. We were out detecting one day in a creek. Now this creek is heavily lined and just completely full of brush, bushes, trees, and just crazy overgrown in the inside of this creek. There was no water in it when we were there. It was in the middle of the summertime. In fact, it was like 105 out. We were all thirsty. We'd all been hiking, and if we were smart, we just would have turned around and went home and got something to drink because we were in the middle of nowhere with no water. And I remember that very clearly. I hiked up to the edge of the creek with the other guys, and we turned our machines on, and it was not a very big area. We were getting a little bit of iron, and I figured those two guys kind of got it covered. I don't want to, you know, get in their way, so I'll jump across the creek, see what's on the other side. This is what Mark Dayton always does. He goes into a site with the guys, and then I wander off and try to find the next best thing, right? So anyway, I go across the creek, and as I step out over the edge of the creek, I get up onto the bank. I looked up on the hill, and I stopped for a minute, mostly just to catch my breath, but I was pondering a bunch of cows that were at the bottom of an oak tree up on a hill. And these cows were all laying in where the shade should have been from that tree. But because it was this certain time of year where there was no leaves on the tree, I was wondering, why are they sitting around that tree when there's no leaves, therefore there's really no shade, and they're sitting there like it's a big shade tree. And while I'm looking at these cows up on the hill, and I have my headphones on and my machine in my hand, while I'm looking at them up on the hill, I'm wondering that all of a sudden one of the cows jumps up violently and spins in the air and looks at my direction, right at me, and turns around and runs like for its life, like I was 2 feet away from it, when I was really 100 yards away from it. So I was about the distance of a football field away from the cows. But this one cow was so scared that it looked like it was startled by something right in front of it. And I've never seen a cow do that before. And when it did that, all the other cows jumped up out of a sleep or out of a slumber and jumped up off the ground and took off running with it. And at that very moment, when just about when every cow was up and in a trot, I was watching them thinking, man, did I scare them that bad? At that very moment, I felt and heard a very loud rock hit the ground right behind my feet. And it felt literally like someone had dropped a bowling ball from about 20 feet up, and it fell right behind my feet. And I spun around quickly. Remember, I had my headphones on and my metal detector in my hand, and I knew that Ron and Andrew were behind me somewhere, but across the creek last time I saw them. I spun around, and it literally just took my breath away. It scared me so bad that I just gasped, like, and turned around quickly to look and see what was there that threw the rock at me, or however that rock got there. And when I turned around, there was about 5 big boulders, about the size of a bowling ball or a football. And I don't know which one of those rocks is the one that hit behind me, but they were all large. And somehow, some way, something threw a rock at me. And it was a very large rock that I don't think a person can throw. Now, the edge of the creek where the trees were and all the cover was about 20 feet from where the rock was. So that just completely ruled out in my mind that it could have been a human that threw that. And I wondered then, whatever threw that probably had to have been the thing that scared the cows, because I wouldn't think that a cow would be that afraid of me. That's the end of that incident. That's the end of the story. I mean, I got on my phone immediately and called Andrew. I said, "Where are you guys at?" He said, "We're across the creek." I said, he said, "Where we left you, where you last saw us." And I said, "Okay, are you or Ron over here on my side?" "No." And Andrew's like, "Dude, what's up? I can hear it in your voice." And I said, "I'm freaked out because somebody or something just threw a rock at me." Now, I had a gun on me. I have my CCW. I had a gun holstered on my right side. At this point, I have my hand on my gun, and I'm talking on the phone to Andrew, and he says, "I'll be right there." So Andrew comes flying through the creek. He's got his gun out, and he walks up, and we're talking about what happened. And right away, me and him both dropped into the creek immediately. And he went right and I went left, and we tried to see if we could see anything, anybody, or listen or hear anything, or any footprints, or what could have happened. Well, nothing. We didn't see anything. We looked everywhere. We didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. Just the weirdest thing ever. There was no evidence of what could have done that to me. So that, like I said, that's the end of that incident. About a year later, I got another incident I'm going to tell you guys about. All right, so the next incident happened about a year later, about 1/8 of a mile away from where the rock incident happened. So it was me and Ron. We were out probably made a video that day for California Relic Adventures. I'm sure we filmed a video that day, and it's on the channel. We were out at a place we call Camp 4 Mile, and we have to hike 4 miles. There was like nowhere to park that wasn't 4 mile hike in to this site. And it's a very remote location. Even where you would park would be way away from any town. It's very remote. And there had been, like I say, a bunch of sightings in the area that we didn't know about, but you got to hear this story too. So we're walking out to the site, and on the way out, we saw cows out in the field. We knew there were cows there. When we got done, it was dark, and we're hiking back out, and we're just talking, and our headphones are probably down on our shoulders, and we're carrying our machines and our backpacks, and it was super dark. And I remember that there was a fog layer that was just starting to come up, and it was about waist height. While we were walking, we could feel the fog was getting higher and higher. And we're just walking and talking, trying to figure out where we're going to make sure we're going the right way. And undoubtedly, there was cows nearby. We knew that there was. All of a sudden, while we're walking and talking, we hear this really loud, guttural yell in the middle of the night. And it came from about, if I had to guess, I'd say 100 feet away, maybe 150 feet away, half a football field away. And it was very powerful in that we not only could hear it, but we could feel the concussion of it. Like it was a sound. It was crazy. And you could feel the power of that in your body, the lows. It was way louder than any cow. It was not a sound that we'd ever heard a cow make. And it was not a bull or anything like that. I don't know what it was. We will never know what it was. But I got to tell you what happened next. So we both stopped talking immediately and looked at each other. We both had our guns on, because we always do when we're out at night. We didn't pull our guns out or nothing. We're just sitting there thinking about what just happened. I said, "Did you hear that, dude?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I didn't want to act scared in front of him or concerned, and he didn't want to act scared or concerned in front of me. So we just kind of shook it off like nothing even happened, you know, and wow, that was weird. Looked at each other, and so I get my flashlight out, and I shine my flashlight out in the field. And as I shine it out in the field, I'm seeing green eyes everywhere. And there's green eyes all down at the cow height. All of a sudden, right in the center with my flashlight, I see 2 tall orange eyes that are taller than me off the ground, and about a little bit further back from where the cows are, so behind the cows. So I could see the cows out, you know, like within as close as 40 feet to me to like 100 feet. And past that, I see these 2 really tall orange eyes that, if I had to guess, I would say they were a minimum of 6 feet tall, but maybe 7 or 8 feet off the ground, if that sounds possible. As soon as I saw the orange eyes, I went right back to the orange eyes and held my light on it. And all of a sudden, the orange eyes just quickly dropped down right to the ground and just laid until they went out of sight in the fog. And I just kept my light there for a minute. And me and Ron looked at each other like, "Dude, did you see that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And we couldn't believe what we had just seen, but our next instinct was not to go walk out and find the orange eyes. We just, again, tough guys, right? We turned around and just kept walking the way we were going. I shut my flashlight off, or probably turned it down to low, and just hiked out. I figured that if something was going to make a run at us, we'd hear it. We have our guns, you know, whatever. That's kind of the end of that incident. That's the end of the story. So there's two crazy things that happened to me that are Bigfoot-like, and they're unexplained. We'll never know what happened in either one of those incidents. I got a bunch of other crazy things I could tell you guys too that I've seen that are other topics that are unexplained stuff. Maybe that's the next video I'll do. But what I want to hear now is I want to hear from you guys. What have you seen out there? What have you guys, as metal detectorists, I got two friends that live close by who recently, a couple years, less than 2 years ago, found a dead body, a human body out in the field. Turned out to be a missing person, and they stumbled upon it while metal detecting. Made front page news all over the United States.
As detectives described how a man randomly out with a metal detector found earrings and human remains near Plymouth in the Sierra foothills last week.
And the things we see when we're out metal detecting is just crazy. What I want you to do is go down below in the comments and tell me what's some of the stuff that you guys have seen. Because I know you guys have seen some crazy stuff too. And maybe I'll pick one or two of you to do another video with, or we could do maybe like a live video and talk. But what's your stories? Let's get back to the very end of this clip right here, and then that's going to be it for this video. Like I said, some crazy things that I've seen. Just wanted to share those two stories with you guys. That's it, guys. I hope to hear from you down in the comments. Take it easy.
Maybe in sparse numbers, but definitely real.